Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. As you said, I'm Kimberlie. This is Maggie. She is the president of our church council. We got to meet Roland and Brian at classes a couple weeks ago, and when she heard I was coming, I'm going to move it down more. I'm just really short. When she heard I was coming to Stephenville, she insisted on coming. So y'all have a great pastor and a great deacon. I'm sure your entire council is wonderful. So I just want to share with you a couple of minutes about what we do, but mostly I just want to share some stories because I think that's way more personal than hearing all of the boring things that we actually do. So we started about 4.5 years ago working with the homeless, and I know that all of you know this because Brittany Graves has been here the last 2 or 3 years, yes? So we still do that, but it has grown every year. We host services, so for us as a church, we do humanitarian aid, so food, clothes. We also do housing assessments. We're one of 5 licensed organizations in Austin that can do intakes and see where people are vulnerable and where they can actually be housed and get onto government housing. And what is so great is that Friday, not yesterday, we reached 480 people housed in 4.5 years, and we expect to hit 500 by the end of next month. So we're very excited about that. We actually do, not used to microphones, sorry. We actually have about 50% of the homeless clientele that are housed in Austin come through Sunrise. So we started with just looking at our neighbors that were outside of our doors and realizing that they needed help. And now we see anywhere from 50 to 200 people a day, but we actually work with about 1,400 during the month, and those are different people. So it is still growing. We have all kinds of service providers come in. We have mental health, actual psychiatrists, we have doctors, food stamps, insurance, the VA comes. So we have all of these service providers that come and use our church at least once a week. Some of them come 5 days a week to make sure that we get our clients from homeless to housed. That's our goal. And unfortunately, you can't just take a homeless person and house them. You have to walk with them through the journey to make them to where they can stay in housing, where they can sustain themselves. So that's our ultimate goal, is to see lives restored. So I really just want to share with you what we're doing right now. I know that y'all also had the conversation about the coronavirus. We have also had that conversation. For the most part, our doors are going to be closed for the next 2 weeks, except for doing Facebook Live services. And then for our homeless, we're actually only taking in 3 people at a time. So we're having to lock down our doors and have one person come in, find out what they need, get them help, and send them on, which is going to be very different for us because we're used to having 100, 200 people in our sanctuary every day. So it is a struggle, and it's going to be difficult to explain to those who have mental illnesses or those who are currently using why they can't come into somewhere they call home. So it's going to be a struggle, but we're ready for it. And we have a meeting tonight of how we're going to change our system and who's going to be allowed to be there and who's not. So if y'all will be in prayer for us over the next couple of weeks, we would appreciate it. We know that God is a mighty God and he will keep us safe, but we will do our best to keep us safe too. So on to the more fun stuff. If you can show the first picture. This is a picture of Mark, our senior pastor, in the blonde with the glasses, and the man holding the cup is Rocky. Rocky has been coming to Sunrise for services for about a year, and if you had met Rocky a month ago, you would have been terrified. He has several mental illnesses. He's not actually a user. You would have thought he was based on his interactions. Unfortunately, Because of his mental illnesses, he can't control himself. He disrobes the drop of a hat. He yells at people. He bangs his head against the cement walls. He struggles, very much so. 9 years ago, he let his Social Security and disability lapse. And when that happened, he was kicked off and told he couldn't reapply for 7 years. No one knew that Rocky was having this problem. A year ago, when he came to us, we realized that in January of 2020, he could reapply for Social Security. So the day that he was eligible, he got Social Security. Within a week, our doctors and psychiatrists that are on staff had medication for him. He comes to Sunrise every single morning to take his pills, and it is hilarious. It's like a little kid. You hand him his pills, you hand him his water, and you hold his Social Security money, and you say, take your pills. And you have to make sure he takes them, and he will literally open his mouth like a little kid and show you that he has swallowed his pills. You couldn't get within about 2 feet of Rocky. Now he rides in our cars to go to the DPS office when he needs to. He holds full conversations. He will tell you our names, which he hasn't been able to do in the last year. So that's just why Rocky, his face, that's why we do what we do, because we know that you can give someone a sandwich and it'll be great. It'll feed them for that day. But if you walk with them and you invest in their lives, you'll see a real change. The next picture is one of my favorite people in the world. I've only been at Sunrise for 3 months now, and he has stolen my heart. This is Neil and his dog, Cookie. They live in their truck, the truck you see behind them. They've lived in their truck for about 3 years now, and Neil doesn't take medication, and while he is disabled, he's not a user. He's actually a very nice person. You can have a full conversation with him, but he doesn't have the intellect to be able to hold down a job. And because of his background, no one will hire him. And so what does he do? He and Cookie live in his truck. He's been on the wait list for housing for over a year, just waiting. Last week, I got out of my car. I get there 2 hours before church, y'all. He's already there. I get out of my car and I start walking up to the building and I hear, Pastor, Cookie and I are getting a house. I'm like, what? Like, when did this happen? He said, last night at 10 o'clock at night, they called me and told me that I'm getting a house. And he is getting an actual house. It's 300 square feet, but it's 4 walls and a bed and a sink and a porch. And he is getting a house. He came in, he said, the one thing I want most of all is for y'all to come to my house and see it. I was like, not Rocky. Neil, we will be there. We will have a housewarming party. Like, we are going to come. And then he said, I really, really want to buy the green rocking chair. I was like, what green rocking chair? Like, what are you talking about? There is a green rocking chair that sits in our sanctuary, because we have like 5 or 6 random chairs that are just in there because they use them during the week. He said, I really want that green rocking chair for my porch. And I was like, well, let's talk to Pastor Mark. And he was like, I have this much money. And we're like, Neil, you come here every week. You serve every week. You can have that rocking chair. During service, he pulled that rocking chair right up front. He sat there the entire time. We stood up for worship. He was like, I'm sitting in my rocking chair. Like, he was so excited. And when he carried it out, I've never seen so much joy on a person's face. A rocking chair. So those are our stories. Those are our people. And we have hundreds more like them. But I wanted to, and I don't know if they've done this in the past, but I wanted to put faces to what we do, because that's how we do what we do. That's how we sustain ourselves, is not just the numbers, not just the facts, but the people behind it. Again, I want to thank you so much for having us and hosting us every year, and being our partners in this, and being our church. You are our people, and we love you very much. And while I am new, I've heard so much about you, and I'm so glad to finally get to meet you. Thank you.